It is a beautiful holiday Monday, the day after Dominion Day, 2017. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon, and what's the weather like?
Damn hot, son of a moose.
It is. And with just the slightest breath of a breeze as they're looking eastward down Railway Avenue and Highway 48, the rails of the Canadian National on the other side, welcome to Kendal. Looking back west along Highway 48, which on is about 80 k's that away, we're up on a long neck of ridged moraine locally called the Silver Hills. This is the Kipling Plain, a geographical feature that stretches from the Kendal Valley southeast, embracing Moose Mountain and extending into Manitoba. In the early days, a big Barney livery stable stood on the corner of Main Street and Railway Avenue there. There was a barn next to it. The false front building was a garage. There was a store on the next block up. On the corner here was McLean Hardware and Implements, a garage next to it. Next door to that, Cullen's General Store, where it might have been the post office. In 1921, there was a butcher in Kendal, harness maker, an auto dealer, 2 blacksmiths, hardware store, a lumber yard on Main Street, 2 general stores, implement dealer, livery and feed. A permit had been issued for a pool room / bowling alley, and there was talk about a movie theater. Kipling's about 75 k's off to the east there. And from the east, built out the Canadian Northern from Brandon in 1907 all the way to Regina. Freight service was inaugurated at Kendal here on December the 4th, 1907. Passenger service commenced on the 22nd of October, 1908. By then, a freight passenger shelter had been dropped off here at mile 46 from Kipling on the Glen Avon side. The shelter was replaced in 1913 by a 4th class station, a little bungalow affair with a freight shed on one end. It was sold off in 1977. On the far side of the tracks were 4 elevators at one time. The British America and the National went up in 1907. 10 years later, the United Grain Growers built, and 10 years after that, the Saskatchewan Wheat Pool built its 661st elevator. It was the last one closed in 1984. All gone. I'm given to understand that Canadian Northern laid out the town site in 1907, perpendicular to its rail line, and that the first business in the area was a blacksmith operated by Valentine Gates, 1904. And looking due south down Main Street, the Texaco gas station stood on the corner down there in the 1980s. And that's all that remains of the Kendal post office. Just some super boxes in front of the village office. It was a centennial project opened in 1967. Village was incorporated on February 28, 1919. Population 105. George Wright opened the post office of Kendal Station on January 17, 1910. Kendal Station became just Kendal on February 23, 1957.
On Main Street, there's a lot of vacant lots.
Oh, yeah. There were there too. There used to be buildings on too. They were bought and moved out.
No major fires. Look at east on First Avenue. The nice concrete sidewalks were laid in 1947. Kendal essentially consists of 6 surveyed blocks with a huge sports field on the west end of the village. Look at north up Main Street. The 2 blocks farthest away from the railway tracks were the church reserve on the west side and the schoolyard on the east. Security lumber built in this block in 1909, and Schmidt's grocery store stood on the corner here, later Rink's Red and White. Also maybe Wright's General Store. Remembered from very early times was Rainville Boarding House and Restaurant. One of the first projects that the village undertook was to get wooden sidewalks built, get people out of the mud, and distribute fire extinguishers here and there around town. I think that used to be a garage at one time, or a shop. The station stood to the right of the intersection up there between the highway and the railway tracks. And this is the enormous sports grounds on the west end of the village, half as big as the village itself. Many ball diamonds. The dynamiters played here during the 30s. 1949, there was a curling rink built, and I think it was out here somewhere. It's closed and gone by 1976, though. Little playground. What kind of bird is that? Quite a number of baseball players in Kendal came from the big Carry the Kettle Assiniboine Reserve to the north. Lawrence and Jim Thompson, Dan Deegan, Ed Prettyshield, George O'Watch. Looking east down 2nd Avenue and the Church Reserve on the north side of 2nd Avenue. This is Treaty 4 territory into the district here in 1898. Began coming French people from Quebec and from France, followed by Germans from Eastern Europe and a smattering of Brits from Ontario and the United States. St. Ignatius of Loyola, built in 1919, the only church in town. There was a grand rectory on this lot as well, but it suffered a couple of fires over the years, in one of which Father Beachy died. The rectory was demolished. The Silver Hills School Reserve is right across Main Street from here, but the school was closed in 1970 and the property subdivided for housing. The first little wooden school was opened in March 1910 and was replaced in 1919 by a 2-room brick building.
I'm Martin Cress. There was a school in the yard, yeah, and the horse barn was a little bit further back, yeah. By the mid-80s, we transferred to Momart. They're all probably the same age as I. And you know where they all are, except the wife and I? They're all gone. All have passed away, all them years. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's sort of a blessing, like, at our age, the wife is a year younger than I, and we're not helpless. We can drive vehicles, we can see, we can hear. Well, my experience comes from the Ukraine.
Okay.
Yeah, but German descent, eh?
Yeah,
From Russia, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
And then from the Ukraine, they come over here, and
Okay.
yeah. But when they come over here, well, they could speak Ukrainian and German, but not English yet. They had to learn all that.
Yeah, yeah.
We moved in 1978. Yeah. Yeah, when we moved to town, there was 240 people living in town here. Now it's around 75.
Okay. The census of 2016 has counted 83 people living in Kendal, Saskatchewan.
Long talk with Mr. Martin Crest, 90 years old. Quite a character.